The weird part wasn't realizing your boss was incompetent. It was realizing everyone else already knew and acted normal anyway. Like everybody silently agreed to keep pretending. You notice it the first time someone with authority looks completely lost while pretending they're not. A teacher reading straight off slides they didn't make. A manager avoiding eye contact while repeating policy lines. A doctor typing the same generic response before you even finish explaining what's wrong. And you walk away thinking, wait, that's the person in charge? That realization hits harder than people admit. Because growing up, part of you assumed adults knew something you didn't. That eventually people become more certain, more capable, more grounded. Then one day, you're standing at a counter watching someone click through tabs for 10 minutes just to tell you they can't do anything. And they still get to make decisions for everyone else. That's the strange part. A lot of people don't lose trust in systems all at once. It happens in tiny moments. Waiting outside an office while someone checks with management. Watching a professor cancel class again without explanation. Listening to somebody speak confidently about something they clearly barely understand. At first it can make you feel a little crazy, because everyone keeps acting like nothing feels off. Everyone nods. Everyone helps the moment keep moving. Nobody says, this person has no idea what they're doing. So eventually you stop questioning it out loud. You just carry the feeling quietly. And after a while, that feeling changes how you see people. Not in an edgy way, not in a everyone is stupid way. More like you start noticing something uncomfortable about yourself too. You can feel your brain responding to confidence before truth. Someone speaks clearly, pauses at the right moments, you sound certain, and part of you relaxes instantly, even before you know if they're actually right. That's the scary part. A lot of people think manipulation looks aggressive. Most of the time it just sounds calm. It sounds like someone answering too quickly, someone never admitting uncertainty, someone making complicated things feel emotionally simple. And you see how easily people follow that. A room gets quieter around confident people, even when nobody fully understands what they're saying. That's such a strange feeling to notice in real time, especially when you catch yourself doing it too, nodding along, trusting the tone more than the substance. You can literally feel yourself agreeing before you've even thought about why. That realization humbles people quickly, because now the problem doesn't feel out there anymore. You realize how badly human beings want someone to sound sure of things, even if they aren't. And the strange part is, even after noticing all this, part of you still wants someone to believe in, someone who sounds grounded, certain, clear. That feeling never fully leaves people. Some people start slowing conversations down after that. They trust people more when they can admit uncertainty without panicking. Other people become more careful about the feeling certainty gives them. They stop confusing confidence with safety quite as quickly. That's hard to unsee once you notice it, and once you notice it, you start catching how often people confuse composure with character. That changes the way you listen to people. Not immediately. At first it's subtle. You just start pausing longer before trusting someone. You notice when a person keeps speaking instead of thinking. You notice when somebody answers too fast after being challenged. You notice how uncomfortable some people become the second they don't look competent anymore. That discomfort controls more behavior than people realize. A lot of authority figures aren't protecting truth. They're protecting the image they built around themselves. You can feel it when someone refuses to admit they don't know something. When a manager starts blaming policy halfway through a conversation. When a teacher gets irritated by questions instead of curious about them. That irritation tells you something. Because secure people usually don't panic when they're questioned, but insecure people do. And after a while, you stop looking at confidence the same way. You start asking yourself, is this person actually grounded or are they just emotionally practiced? That distinction changes relationships too. You start noticing who listens to respond and who actually slows down enough to understand you. Some people stop talking so much after noticing this, they start watching instead. You realize observation tells you more than performance ever did. You can even feel it physically sometimes, typing out a message, then deleting half of it, starting to explain something honestly, then saying never mind instead, rehearsing harmless versions of yourself before social situations. And that's where the realization gets uncomfortable, because you start noticing how many versions of yourself were built for survival. The polite version, the agreeable version, the version that laughs at things it doesn't even find funny anymore. You can feel yourself switching personalities sometimes depending on who walks into the room, talking differently around authority, making yourself smaller around difficult people, rehearsing harmless opinions before saying them out loud. And after a while, you stop noticing you're doing it. That's the dangerous part. Not manipulation, adaptation. Because human beings adapt to emotionally artificial environments surprisingly fast, especially when honesty starts feeling socially expensive. You stop saying what you actually think in meetings, you rewrite texts 3 times before sending them. You catch yourself using professional versions of emotions instead of real ones, and eventually something strange happens. After a while, you stop reacting naturally. You start filtering yourself automatically, not because you're fake, yeah, because your brain learned which versions of you create less friction. You stop speaking impulsively. You start editing in real time. A lot of people confuse emotional control with emotional suppression. Those aren't the same thing. That's why some conversations leave you feeling weirdly empty afterward. Not because something bad happened, because nothing real happened. Most people don't realize how guarded they've become until they're around someone genuinely sincere again. That silence after social performance hits people harder than they expect. Some people react to that by becoming colder, more guarded, more calculated socially. They stop expecting sincerity entirely and start treating every interaction like strategy. Other people become quieter instead, more deliberate, more observant. They stop rushing to fill silence just to seem impressive. The most grounded people usually speak carefully when something actually matters to them, and people who are secure rarely need to dominate conversations to feel important. That changes the way you see strength, because after a while, composure starts looking more impressive than confidence, and presence starts feeling rarer than charisma. That's why so many people feel emotionally disconnected now. Not because humans stopped talking, because most people stopped feeling heard. There's a difference. You can sit through an entire meeting, an entire class, an entire dinner table conversation, and still feel completely alone psychologically. That feeling changes people slowly. Some people start interacting on autopilot after a while. They laugh at things they don't actually find funny, pretend to agree just to keep interactions smooth, nod through conversations while mentally somewhere else entirely. You can literally feel your body doing it sometimes. Checking the clock, looking at the exit, rehearsing what you'll say afterward instead of listening anymore. You ever walk away from a conversation thinking, why did I pretend that interaction felt normal? That realization sits with people longer than they expect, because part of you knows you were performing too, and eventually you realize something uncomfortable. A lot of people aren't exhausted from work itself. They're exhausted from constant emotional performance, from pretending interactions feel meaningful when they don't, pretending systems feel human when they don't, pretending authority feels trustworthy when it doesn't. That kind of adjustment builds quietly, until one day you notice how much energy goes into managing yourself around other people, answering emails, attending meetings, smiling on cue, reacting correctly. That realization scares people more than incompetence ever did. Because now the question isn't just, why are these people leading? Now it becomes, what kind of person do repeated environments like this slowly turn all of us into? Because cynicism reshapes people too. You stop trusting too quickly. You hesitate before asking for help. You keep more thoughts to yourself. You assume people are performing before they're being honest. That protects you sometimes, but it can also isolate you. So people usually split in two directions here. Some become permanently bitter. Every conversation becomes proof humanity is fake, shallow, manipulative. Other people become more selective instead of hopeless. They stop idolizing people, but they still look for sincerity in small places. One honest coworker, one grounded friend, one teacher who actually stays after class and talks like a human being instead of a job title. And weirdly, those small moments start mattering more than the institutions ever did. After a while, you stop asking whether people are intelligent. You start asking whether they're real. Because maybe the real disappointment was never that incompetent people exist. It was realizing how normal performative living became. How many people learned to survive by sounding certain instead of being honest? How many systems reward appearance over understanding? How many people quietly gave up on meaning and kept going anyway? And after a while, the danger isn't just being surrounded by disconnected people. It's becoming one. Quietly, gradually, until one day you realize how rare it feels to speak without calculating yourself first. Nothing dramatic happened. You just spent too many years learning how to navigate people carefully. And after a while, that caution starts feeling more natural than honesty.